Episode 3. The Gaze That Breaks the Silence. A single step, a single breath, a single moment in time. In Episode 2, the silence had been cracked open, but not yet shattered. The communicator had stepped forward. The elder had turned his head. Yuki had drawn in a breath too sharp, too loud. But still, no one had dared to look fully. The hall was no longer the same. The silence was not the same. It was no longer obedience. It was a waiting for the first person to lift their eyes, waiting for someone to see. Yuki's heart pounded. Her fingers curled tighter against the fabric of her kimono, her breath shallow, uneven. She had already decided. She would look. And yet, now that the moment was here, she found herself frozen. This was not just about her. This was about centuries of silence, generations of unspoken rules, an entire world built on not seeing, on not acknowledging what stood right in front of them. And now she was about to be the first. The first gaze. Yuki had spent her whole life kneeling in this hall. She had memorized every detail of the wooden beams, the flickering light of the lanterns, the intricate weave of the mats beneath her knees. She had learnt to read everything without looking, the shift of breath, the slightest tremor of hesitation. But now, for the first time, she would truly see. Slowly, so slowly, she lifted her eyes, and she saw her, the communicator, standing tall, steady, unshaken. Her presence was not demanding, it was not forceful, but it was undeniable. She had claimed this space without words, without movement, and now Yuki had seen her. The moment their eyes met, something inside Yuki shifted. It was as if she had spent her whole life underwater, and suddenly she had surfaced, gasping, breathing, seeing light for the first time. The communicator did not smile. She did not nod. She only stood there, waiting, because this was not about her. This was about what came next. The ripple effect. Yuki barely noticed the sound at first. It was a breath, sharp, startled, not hers. Someone else had seen. She was not alone. The elder, the one who had turned his head first, he was looking too. It was only a glance, a flicker of hesitation, a moment where his gaze darted upward, caught in something bigger than obedience. But it was enough, because once you have seen, you cannot unsee. And once one person sees, others begin to follow. A slow shifting, a whisper of fabric, another sharp breath. Someone else was looking, then another, then another. The silence was breaking, not in shouts, not in rebellion, but in eyes lifting, in gazes meeting, in acknowledgement that something was happening, something unstoppable, something that had already begun. The Millionaire Midwife connection, the leap of trust. This was the moment of no return. In The Millionaire Midwife, Junko had lived in a world that told her to follow, to obey, to never question. But there had been a moment, one single moment, when she had seen something different. And that had been enough. The moment she had realized there was another path, one that did not end in exhaustion, in quiet suffering, in living a life designed for someone else. The moment she had lifted her own gaze, that was the moment she had been born into something new. That was the true beginning. And now, in this hall, in this moment, Yuki had taken that first step. She had seen, she had been seen, and nothing would ever be the same. Teaser for episode 4. The communicator had not moved. She had not spoken, but she had already changed everything. The elders who had once enforced silence, they had seen her. The students who had been raised in obedience, they had seen her. The world that had been held together by unspoken rules, it had seen her. And the silence that had lasted for centuries was crumbling. Episode 4. The first words spoken. Coming soon.